Hi, this is Mary Kay. This week in class we're doing pet portraits. This is Buddy. This is my nutrition coach's dog. So I ran it off on my computer to make a card. I traced Buddy using water-soluble graphite paper. This is a really cute picture because of the look on its face. The ear is down. The little name tag will get Buddy in there. So I'm going to start with the fur, and I'm going to try to get that color. Looks like some burnt sienna and maybe some raw sienna. That's pretty close right there. Let's just start. I'm going to paint this dry on dry, just the pale paint first. So I'm just going to put a coat over. You know what I don't have? I do not have my paper towel to do this lifting. Let me fix that. Let me get a Kleenex. Okay, good. And then I'm just gonna, this is a thirsty brush. I lift up that part of the ear. Okay, keep going. I'm just gonna put this coat on first. Look at that ear. So cute. So I just have a little more water for this lighter side of Buddy's face. There's a little white spot there by his tongue. That's his collar down there. That's his mouth in there, his nose. So the way to make Buddy look three-dimensional is going to be in the shadows, which is not this first coat. That's more raw sienna in there. Yeah, I think that's really close to his color. There's the little name tag. I'm going around the white part of his belly, and then the trick to painting white is that the shadow's blue. Leave it white and you paint the shadow blue. There's his little paw. I think this is a little foot back here. So this is here. That's a little dark area. His tail has a little white tip. Okay. And that part's a little white right there. That's his collar. Okay, that's the first coat. Now I'm going to add some more pigment to this. And I'm going to try, what do I want to try? Do I want to try French in there to darken it? Yeah, I think I'll do that. That's burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue. So now I'm going to go back into the ear here. So this brush is a brush that they sell at museums. I call them museum pencil brushes. And right here, this one has a really good point. They're very inexpensive, and they're the company that makes these brushes is in Marin, but they're sold all over the world. So I'm just putting in this layer here now. I'm going to put a little bit more French into this and more water to get this shadow on the face right here, because it's not as dark as the ear shadow. That smile is just so funny. And that tongue. Right around the tongue there's some really white fur, so we don't want to wipe. All right, I think I'm going to go in with the dark now and try to get around the eyes and the nose. So, let's see. I'm gonna do burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue. Okay. All right, little nose. That's a good color. Trying to keep my head out of the way because it's so... I've got to leave the highlight in the nose so that you know there's a nostril there. I'll darken that later, but in this one there's a really dark nostril there, and then I think there's more brown. So this to, okay, and then the highlight on the nostril is more of the dark, but it's kind of speckled. Buddy, is that how your nose looks? I think it's pretty close. All right, we're going with that. And eyeballs. Well, this eyeball is very dark. There's only just a tiny bit of the brown showing. So I'm going to start with the bit of the brown showing. Right here. This side has the golden. The golden part of his eye is really gold. I'm going to lift that with my paper towel just a little bit. I think once the darks get around that eye, it'll look good. I'm going to go for the tongue now. So, pink, permanent rose. I think I'm just going to go permanent rose and then add some. Okay, so that's the shadow right here. There's a couple. Come on, tongue. Let's get you in there. That's pretty bright pink, isn't it? Some of it's not that bright pink. I'll need to lift this a little bit. There's a tiny little tooth showing right there. So we got to have the tooth white. Here's his tongue. Okay, let me lift that. I'm going to lift that with a thirsty brush right in here. Tongue. Great. Okay, now where do I go? That's not it's drying really fast, even though it's raining outside. Okay, so I'm going to go in with these darks around this eye. There's more shadow up here, so it's kind of like hard to see where the eye is and where the shadow is, but I think we've got it. There's like a little like a Taylor Swift eyeliner there. Okay, over here on this one's in the sun, so the dark around his eyes is from this fur, not the shadow. Same thing, I think there's a little Taylor Swift glint there. And then there's the pupil. Okay, let's just darken the pupil over here too, wherever it might be. Okay, hey buddy. All right, let's put some like fur down the middle here. There's a little line down to his, kind of to his nose over there. It's more of red though. Let's put a little bit of pink in that. I want to go just a little darker right here in the ear and over here. All right, we're gonna stop there. Now I'm going to go into the to his big mouth. So that's going to be pink, and that dark color that I just made, which is burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue. So and over here, I think that needs to be a little darker, a little more pigment. Whenever I'm painting someone else's pet, I get a little nervous, but it's just a piece of paper and I just need to be brave. I can tell this dog gets a lot of exercise to have his tongue out that much. Okay, moving along. Let's do the collar. The collar's blue. What color blue? I think I'm going to do cerulean. I'll try and get it kind of thick and nice and clean. Okay, here we go. Collar. It also has you know, the little black clasp. So I'm not gonna make that too big of a deal. Okay, and now here's the tricky thing, because the little, that's the little thing that, the loop. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint this name tag with the same color. And it's a little dog bone. And what I'm gonna do now is take my pencil, my glasses off, get really close. So you're gonna see my hair here. And I'm gonna write really tiny, buddy. So if you look really closely, that says buddy. All right, I'm gonna keep going here. Got all the hard parts done. Now's the easy stuff. So I think his tail here is darker, farther away. The little tip is super white. When we go around with the grass, that'll really show up. Okay, so here's more dark. Shadow, shadow, shadow. Cute. Alrighty. I'm going to add just a little bit of shadow to the white fur, and shadows in white fur are blue. That needs to be darker and redder in there. Okay. Great. Shadow on the other side. So the sun is definitely coming from the right. Look at those little toenails. So cute. All right, how about over here? A couple toenails too. There, he's looking pretty 3D. This foot is mostly in shadow, but it's not going to be green. I think it's pretty close. We need some little dots here. This part's more in shadow right here. And then the tongue is in shadow right there. Let's do that. And then I don't think I want to touch the tongue too much now. I do see a little bit of shadow underneath the nose, between there and the tongue. So he has some whiskers, but it's kind of going through. All right, I'll just do a couple. All righty. Now we need to paint the background, because this eye turned out really good. I like that eye. Let's see. one more little thing. I'm going to put some more shadow in the belly here, kind of just underneath where the name tag is. Make that a little darker, give that another line of, okay, I think it's almost, I think I'm gonna ruin it, I think, if I keep going. Maybe up here needs just a little bit to, okay, now the green. Alrighty, so the important part on this is that it's all green, and then there's shadow coming here and here and around this paw. And so what I'm going to do, I want to keep this background really simple. So I'm going to just do a little wet, not going right up to the to the line yet. I'm not wetting it right to it. I'm just dampening here. So I'm going to start with yellow and then add blue to it to get the green. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that pink for now so I can have a nice green spot. Okay, this is yellow. It's hands a yellow medium. That's what I'm going to start with. Aha, that's some yellow. We are talking some yellow now. Joan Hoffman is a painter and a California painter. I've taken one class with her, and she said, you have to paint with yellow first because our sun is yellow. Okay, so now I'm going to make green. So I'm going to add Antwerp blue to the yellow. And this is making a kind of a bright green. Okay, so now, and I'm not painting every leaf of grass. That's just not my style. But now I'm going right up to Buddy's fur. There's a little divot in his fur head right there. And then around this ear, which has a little slope to it. And then around here. So I'm just, oi! Got grass in your ear, buddy. So this is a background. It doesn't, I'm not trying to make, I'm not trying to paint every piece of grass here. I'm just trying to get the silhouette. All right, I'll come over here now, start working this air side. Okay, if I have green on one side of the ear, I need to have that same colored green on the other side of the ear. I'm just sort of scrubbing that with the side of my brush. I'm coming up right next to his face here. So you can see when I put the green over the yellow how it leaves some of that yellow showing. And that's a good thing. Making more green now. Alrighty, I'm just going to paint over the shadow. So if I have this color here, I go up over there, I got to have it over here too, which I do actually already, so that's a good thing. And then I think I need to just kind of carefully go in around this ear again. And then make that color blend out. Okay, continuing on down. On this side shadow, but I'm just going to paint this first. And then I'll go over it. The shadow goes over the top. Right around his tail. Hello, tail. Make sure you have your little pink, your little white tip. Those are called flags on beagles. And there's that little foot back there. Hi, little foot. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit more blue and add a little bit of burnt sienna to this. So I'm gonna get a darker green down here. Go around each foot. Hello, little foot. So right here is kind of a nice bright green that you're seeing through his legs. All right. This is a great place to sign it. I don't mind that watermark right there. I don't mind the watermarks. So I think I'm going to sign it right in here. I'm going to sign my initials. M-K-S. Well, I'm going to write out Jolly. So that's a bamboo signer, and then I dig into the wet paint and it makes my name dark like that. Okay, so now it's time to add some shadows to the grass. What I'm going to do is take the dark green, which is burnt sienna and Antwerp blue, and I'm going to add a little bit of French ultramarine blue to it, and that's going to make a really nice dark shadow. And so I have to look carefully where that shadow is. I have a watermark there. This must still be damp. Okay, let's work down here. Okay, so I'm going to add, I love how the paw's not in the shadow. And then here, the shadow goes up that way. I'm right here. And then here is really the darkest shadow, so I'm going to add a little bit more paint to that. Goes to about right here. I'm getting nervous. Look at my brush is shaking. And then just kind of straight across. I think it needs to be even darker. Kind of stops right here. Kind of joins up with that other one. There's some, so his little foot right here is in some shadow. Now I'm making little grass shapes. There's a little shadow right under his tail. There's some up here by his ear. I don't know if I want to put those in. And then we have grass shapes down here we have shadow underneath, right underneath the paw. To be careful now that I don't make a mistake. That's of course when I do. Okay. And then now I'm making little grass shapes. Okay, then those are just making little lines. All right, that is so close. I want a few more grassy shapes up here. There needs to be some darks there. See how he's popping out from the grass now. I like that. I'm gonna make it this shadow. I'm gonna put another layer on that shadow. Okay, so it's Antwerp blue, burnt sienna, and French ultramarine blue to get that grassy dark shadow color. All right, so here we go again. I'm gonna try again to really make his stick out, make his little. And then there's little grassy shapes here. Really dark right next to there. That's better. We'll darken this over here. I can start breathing again. I'm just kind of looking at the grass now and looking for areas that look sort of more in shadow, grassy areas. I'm not trying to paint every blade of grass. I'm just sort of trying to leave it, suggesting that this is grass. Do I have it dark enough? Does he look like he's in the sunshine and that he has fur? I think I'm gonna stop now. Then I'm gonna pull the tape off so you can see what this looks like when the tape comes off. It makes a little border. And there we have Buddy. Thanks for watching.